Alrighty folks, it looks like we're talking about fractions and decimals now. We're converting between fractions and decimals. And there are some different methods that we can use to accomplish that goal. Give me 1 second, pardon me. Thank you much. We're talking about having 3 different possible methods. 2 that you will most likely use in class all the time. 1 that you may use once in a long while. But I can guarantee you will not be able to use it in a testing situation. And let me go through these really quick with you and give you these examples, get you out of here quick. One of those methods is just to use division. And by using division, I'm going to take my given fraction and I'm going to divide the denominator into the numerator. And the example that we have right here is 4/5. This is 4/5. The way that it would be set up in a problem would be to have the denominator on the outside and have the numerator on the inside of that division box, basically. And it looks like you can't divide 5 into 4, and that sounds kind of obvious. What I can do to remedy that is to put a decimal after that whole number 4, and I can place a couple of zeros there. I'll put a 0 there for now just to see what it looks like. Now it looks like it's 5 into 40. One thing that we haven't talked about that I'm going to stress in this video is that I can and I should bring up this decimal from my dividend into my quotient so that I don't forget it. It's going to keep the place value nice. It's going to keep the answer correct as well. If we don't, the answer ends up being wrong. But I can't divide 5 into 4. Put a little 0 there just to mark that I said that to myself. And 5 goes into 40 actually 8 times. And 8 times 5 is 40. I have no remainder. Everybody's happy in the world for now. And my decimal value is going to be 0 and 8/10. As sloppy as it is, it's still 0 and 8/10. So just by doing some simple division, I can get that answer. When I want to use equivalent ratios, that's kind of a special situation. And by creating a fraction with a denominator of either 10 or 100, I can put myself in the situation that I was in before with talking about decimals to fraction conversion, where the way you say is the way you write it. When I have something that has a 10 or 100 denominator, I end up making it sound like one of those decimals so that I can kind of work that way, say it, write it kind of thing. And the example I have here is 13/20. 13 over 20, I'm looking at the 20 and I think about $20 bills. How many $20 bills would it take me to have $100? And when I think about that, I think that it would take me 5 $20 bills to make $100. So if I multiply this 20 by 5, and I multiply this 13 by 5, because I want to keep things balanced, I can do some magical math here. 13 times 5 is 65, 20 times 5 is 100. And when I read that, 65 hundredths, well, I just said my answer. I said 65 hundredths. And there's my answer. Just like my answer here was 8/10, my answer here is 65 hundredths, and I've made some sort of sense there. I've made it into a decimal, and that's the goal of this entire video. Taking a look at our last option, which is a little hard to see, and I do apologize, it's a new marker. It says calculator. And while a calculator might be a really nifty, neat, quick tool to calculate these, unfortunately it is not allowed on district or state tests. So we might use it in class just as a demonstration, and I may let you do it later on in the year to work quickly through a particular problem. But I want to emphasize, and I'm going to keep emphasizing, that using a calculator for this type of question on a state test is a no-no. So we're going to pretend that they don't even exist. They're going to sit there in the rack there, and we're going to pretend to not need them, because we don't. If we take a look at this question, we have 1 3/4. Now the 1's not really going to factor into anything, but it's a whole number, so it needs to get carried into our answer. But 3/4 is important. So if I follow what it says here in my little chart, it says I'm going to type in my numerator, which is 3, hit the division sign, type in my denominator, hit the equal sign, it's going to give me an answer. And since I don't have a calculator handy, I'm just going to write that answer in here. It's going to end up being 0 and 75 hundredths. Now that's not the answer, because I still have this 1 I need to tack onto it. So actually it's not 0 and 75 hundredths, it's 1 and 75 hundredths. So there's my answer right there, 1 and 75 hundredths. So we have 2 that we will use very often. We have 1 that we will almost never use. But keep in mind that there's usually more than one way to get the answer to a particular question. That's where the creativity is in this class. No matter what you do, get it right, be able to explain it, And if you can get it right all the time, consistently doing that, that's your method. And let's keep up with that. So let's share that in class. Let's have a good time. Enjoy this, and I'll talk to you in class.